Welcome to the December 19th, 2023 meeting of the Southborough Historical Commission. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:08 p.m. Noting that besides myself, Kevin Miller, we have Annie Pfaff, Grant Farrington, Michelle Hokinson, Jim Bloschke, and Kelly O'Brien in the gallery. So let's get right to the main thing. We're only really here for the one item besides the meeting minutes is the Historic House Signs Program discussion, which we had to defer, of course, because our last meeting on November 29th kind of ran so long. As I did mention, briefly, I think at the last meeting that, we got the first sign back. That was the tester one, right? For the Muddlicks at 36 East Main, and it came out great, and they were thrilled. And Annie and I went there on a Saturday. What was that, Annie? In November, early November,
like November 11th or 12th, early November. Yeah,
nice sunny day, and presented and got to chat with them. And like I said, they were just the ideal people to have a sort of a first in line to kind of reestablish the program, because they've done such a beautiful job on that house and like really care about this stuff, and were telling us various things that they've done to make the house more sort of period authentic, like finding a salvaged front door that is much more period accurate than what a previous owner had done, and all that kind of stuff. So they were thrilled, we were thrilled. The sign looks great. I showed the photo, and I think that's where we left it, because there were several things that sort of came out of this. Annie has prepared, and she's done so much of the legwork on this. I'd want Annie, you to do most of the talking here, but she's done several things. One is prepare a wonderful master list as a Google spreadsheet, and at some point we can add the other members to this so they can just see it. I've got access to it. Annie's got access to it, and it lays out every single sign. And this was with the help of Kate Battles, formerly, of course, on the historical commission. And so now we've got a complete list of all the signs that are out there, which is great. Annie also has put together, like in Google Drive, a place so we can upload the proofs, and have people be able to look at them, and again to track those and to make sure that we're consistent in following our own guidelines. So that's great. She's also we had a list, right, that we put it in the order that these requests came in, and we'd like to move forward with the next batch, now that we had a sample made and it came out so great, and we're really happy with the design, and we're really pleased with the quality of the product. So we want to go through and approve that, and I want to say that again, Annie has done sort of yeoman work on this, because she's the one designing these. You thought it was the Signorama people, but Annie and I chatted and sort of explained to me that the process of going back and forth to get exactly what we want, how we want it, was just easier for her to just do it, and she's got the skills to do it, and so I feel like I'm in the golden age here. Somebody that can do this stuff, and get it done for us, and get it done with dispatch, and then we just send it off to them and they execute it. And of course, we're getting a very good financial deal on these signs, that they're only only a couple bucks more expensive than the sign maker that was giving us the ridiculous deal, who passed away. And so it's just a nice alignment of talents, meaning Annie's, and then what's going on with the vendor. So the couple things that came out of this, though, in ramping back up, is it had me looking back at the language of the program that's on the town website, under our page, and we need to do a lot of work to update that. And I've spoken with the Jay and Hassan in IT about doing this, and their preferred method is that we come up with copy and bring it to them, and it'll probably be Hassan that, like, one of us I can sit down with and say, this is what we want, here it is, and just discuss some layout issues on the website itself, and then they'll do it for us. They sort of find that a cleaner process than us going in and messing around, so that's fine. So we needed to because the program has sort of fundamentally changed in terms of cost, procedure. It was an opportunity, and the signs themselves and how they're manufactured. It was an opportunity to look at all of the rhetoric of the house sign program and tidy it up a little bit, because in my view, it was a little bit cumbersome and inconsistent. One of the things, like, I sent you the link to the way it's currently phrased on the town website. And one of the things it says, the main thing when you go to look at the program, it says, what properties qualify? And you click on that link, and the first thing it says is, the home or other structure was built prior to World War II. Well, that's inconsistent, with the demolition delay bylaw, which puts houses in our purview built prior to 1925, which language I also find weird. And we've discussed that what we want to do with the DDBL when we bring this forward to get sort of refreshed at town meeting is, I very strongly believe, I made this point before, that the language should be consistent with what the town code describes as, and the zoning code describes as, a historic building. And that is a building 85 years old or older. Well, 85 years, for instance, would put us at the present day at 1938. So what I want ultimately is the DDBL reflects the town zoning code better, is in better compliance. None of this prior to 1925 nonsense, but 85 years old, consistent with the zoning code. And so as time moves forward, eventually houses maybe in the 1940s, would become eligible for protection under the DDBL. And I think it should be the same thing with the historic house signs program. Instead of saying, what it now says is that the first criterion is the structure is built prior to World War II. Immediately I go, well, does that mean prior to the commencement of World War II in Europe in September of 1939, prior to the entry of the United States of America in December of 1941? You want to get into those sort of debates? It's kind of ridiculous. Let's have it be historic house signs, 85 years or older, demolition delayed bylaw, 85 years or older. And that happens to be, by the way, 1938. So it's actually close to the commencement of World War II. So it's not that big a shift from the current language. And I know I'm talking about the DDBL too, but you see why then we would be consistent basically across all platforms. We have, if approved at town meeting, we would have demolition delay jurisdiction over homes not currently 1923 to 1925 or 1925 to 2023, 98 years. That's getting quite long in the tooth, so to have it be 85 and everything makes sense to me. So I want to go over that rhetoric and see what your response was to the draft. I just sat down and drafted language that I thought expressed the way the signs will be made, what they'll cost, placement, which Annie and I had an extended conversation about, and then the qualifications. As you compared the link I sent you with the current rhetoric with my proposed rhetoric, the only significant change there was that date issue. The rest of that language I pretty much preserved, and I rewrote the opening statement a little bit. So I want to go over that. And I don't think that will take too long. But then maybe, Annie, do you think the first thing we should do is, well, do you want to address the language first?
Yeah, I think we should go over your attachment first. I
Okay.
think that's kind of just a really good introduction to the whole program anyway. So I think that's really important.
Right. Okay. Do you want me to bring this up, or you guys can just work off that?
I already have it up.
Michelle, do you want it? Can't.
You're on mute, Michelle.
I think if you could put it on the screen, that would be great.
Okay, I will do that. And see if I can do it right.
It'd be better for our attendees if we had any as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Here's the language that I drafted, and Zoom puts all this stuff in the way, which makes it actually hard for me to see. But and I can give you a comparison. Can you see that, everybody?
Yes.
I'm seeing a website with the old sign program information.
Oh, that's weird. This is I've got on my screen share the new stuff up. What are the rest of you seeing?
I see the website as well. I thought that's what you were sharing.
Oh, well, that's weird. Sorry. Let me try this. I can see that. That is very odd. My apologies. Well, maybe we should establish this first. This is what's currently there, and obviously, the opening rhetoric I rewrote. I'll bring up my revision, and then this stuff about the signs is all incorrect, of course, now, because we have a new vendor that makes them a different way, and that they're white PVC. What is it? Digitally printed and so on. And then they had this thing, where you and how do I apply? I had said to you, I thought this was a very cumbersome process, because on the how to apply button, and now it doesn't want to go there. It's this hard copies of the application and requested by email and all this stuff. And as I think I might have mentioned you, before I was on the Historical Commission or even knew anybody in the Historical Commission, my wife went to the townhouse to try to look into this, and nobody knew what she was talking about, or couldn't find the forms. And, it's kind of a very frustrating thing. And I don't think we need to make people jump through these kinds of hoops. They can just follow the steps that I've given and send us an email, and we'll take it from there. This isn't really hard, you look it up in the macros, we look it up in, the other sources that we have, and we move on. And the idea of, and of course the finances are different, so we wouldn't do it this way and have people write a check to and send it to, any of that stuff. So I didn't like that. I'd like to streamline the application process. And then, my version, I'd like to get it all on the same page, so that you don't have this description and then these FAQs, what properties qualify. So let me see if I can, really sorry about this. Let me see if I can I don't know if this is going to come up or not. If I can make the screen share the one I want to, that I really want to share. I don't know if this is going to work or not.
Kevin, oftentimes when you're in the share things, you can select the either
there it is. Yeah, thank you, Grant. That was my goof up. I got it now. Okay, is that you seeing it now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's this is my draft, and now I just have to minimize that. I'm seeing the participants that I don't want to see here. Gosh. All right, well, I'll manage. So, the preamble, you can see there, similar to what was there, but I just rewrote it as the program offers owners of historically and architecturally significant Southborough homes or other buildings. That's opens the door to, for instance, a building like the Knights of Columbus Hall at 1 Main Street, which is a fantastically historic building, but it's not a private home. So I think that's the intention there. Program offers owners of historically and architecturally significant Southborough homes or other buildings the opportunity to show their commitment to historic preservation with a plaque commemorating their home's date of construction and, in most cases, its historic name, as recorded in town records and in the Massachusetts Cultural Resource Information System, the MACRIS database. And those categories are really, for all intents and purposes, one and the same. Any thoughts about that preamble? Anything you want different, or are you guys okay with that? And I can't see.
I had,
Okay.
oh,
Sure, go ahead, Annie.
I just had two really kind of minor suggestions. So in the first line, I might say historically and or architecturally significant Southborough homes or other buildings, because it might not be both. Most likely it is, but I don't know, it's minor.
How's that? I just did it.
Yeah. What does everyone else think?
I was thinking the same thing. Thanks.
Well,
My other suggestion.
I was going to say, Annie,
Oh,
the one thing about linking it and not having it either or is that historically architecturally significant means it's got to be an older home. You could make a very cool looking new building and theoretically it would be in the intent as if it was supposed to be protected. I know later we're going to put the 85-year thing in there, but
Right.
If you say and or, it might imply that a new building it would somewhat qualify.
Yeah, and to Jim's point, I think if it were just like this, just and, that could be historically significant homes and architecturally significant homes. So it gives you maybe more wiggle room, but also, to Jim's point, makes it clear that, yeah, a brand new house, by the most wonderful architect, is be wonderful asset to the town and interesting, but not one that would qualify for this program. That's what you're getting at, right, Jim?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm open.
I think that's a very good explanation.
Yeah, and or maybe add if you want to have it and or, then add the phrase over a defined age, if you want to, just tie it off so that we don't leave it open ended to just architecturally significant.
Well, what does the language in the demo delay bylaw say? I feel like the bylaw says and or, which is kind of why it came to my mind.
I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah, well, it says, for instance, that the bylaw is enacted for the purpose of protecting and preserving significant buildings and structures within the town of Southborough, which constitute or reflect distinctive features of the architectural or historical resources of the town. And later, when we have to make in the rhetoric of that, we have to make a judgment, then it is and or.
Yeah.
In all cases, like when you have to make the initial determination, it's and or language. So I think, just to argue the other way from Jim's point is that if it's clearly defined in this, that this is a historic program, for historic properties. So I don't know, Jim, are you can we go back to the and or? Does that, it is.
I don't feel really strongly about it. I just felt that was worth thinking about for a minute. So I know it's fine.
I think it's
Well-
consistent with the DDL.
So I'm kind of seeing it, I guess, from the flip side of what Jim said. So, like, some of the signs we're going to review tonight are from historic homes that really might not be architecturally significant.
Right.
You know, they've been changed over the years and maybe don't have a lot of original elements left, but they are historical. So I was kind of seeing it as not everything historic is necessarily architecturally significant anymore.
Go ahead, Michelle.
So, one thing that I might add to this, there's a house that's being built right now on Framingham Road that's very modern and architecturally significant. So do you allow that house to have a sign if it's read like this? If it's and or, so this house is
Right.
probably
Well-
architecturally significant. Does
I
that meet the?
Well, I think that's covered then in the does my property qualify? You know,
Okay.
see, I think that's where it does it. So
Okay.
you leave the door open for either kind, but then when you get down to definitions,
Gotcha.
it's got to meet, you know, 2 of the 5 categories that we have.
Well, I think to
Actually,
Annie,
well,
she's made a very good point, which I think I agree in hindsight is probably more accurate than saying and, because they may not be anything but old. So, but maybe to make it crystal clear, we just add the phrase Southborough homes or other buildings over a given age, over a defined age, the opportunity to. Therefore, you're saying up front it's got to be an old building at a minimum.
so
Yeah, Jim, I agree. So kind of rework how we present that information in the first paragraph.
Just, yeah. Well, yeah, either can list it specifically, Kevin, as 85 or older, or if we're going to have this done like a contract that you refer to the definitions later, you could just say over a given age. But however you want to do it, I think.
Yeah, I see.
I was actually going to recommend that we have the age right in the first couple sentences, because I don't, you don't want somebody reading down 4 or 5 paragraphs and then saying, oh, my building isn't over 85 years old, and then they wasted all that time. So I think that's kind of one of the main points. I'm also not sure if we really need the information about Macris right up in the introduction, but I guess it's okay. I don't think a lot of people know what that is. But if we want to include it, I'm fine with that.
I do have the link to it later in the thing, but we could just strike it. Just right there, it's historic name. See what I mean? Like this.
Yeah, I like that.
A little cleaner.
Yeah.
So our homes or other buildings 85 years old or more, or I don't like that. That sounds weird.
Program offers
Older.
homeowners.
Are other buildings constructed over 85 years ago? Or I don't know if that's any better.
I guess I'm of the mind that I don't really think it does need to be specified right there. We're not asking people to wade through 50 pages of fine print only to discover it's right down here.
Yeah.
It's going to be right there on the first page. And if you're
I
talking
feel
about,
like we go into so much. Yeah, we go into so much detail on does my property qualify.
right. Yeah, but so to me, this is just a general statement that the program And it's obviously the whole point of it is to show your commitment to historic preservation. So a house built yesterday, no matter how beautiful it is not an issue of historic preservation at that point. So the program offers owners of historically and or architecturally significant Southborough homes or other buildings the opportunity to show their commitment to historic preservation with a plaque commemorating their home's date of construction and in most cases its historic name. Personally, I like that because it's one sentence. To get too complicated.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah.
I would have this program offers homeowners of historically and or architecturally significant Southborough homes or other buildings. Yeah, I would have this program. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
Annie, you had something also?
Yeah, so I just have a general question and observation. So this is called the Historic House Sign Program. Emphasis on the word house. But my understanding is we also allow other buildings to be part of this program. So like here on the second line, we say Southborough homes or other buildings. So then in the fourth line, do we need to say with a plaque commemorating the home or building's date of construction? So how inclusive do we need to be with the word building as we kind of go along this whole, this whole sheet basically?
Yeah, I mean, we could just do, sorry, I could.
How about structure? Could you put structure in there? Southborough historic structure sign? No, never mind.
Oh.
Forget that.
I think if we mention it up top, then I guess you could also change the name of the program to be historic signs instead of historic house signs, but I think so many of our requests are for house signs, right? That I would be fine just mentioning it the once and keeping that kind of language consistent, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think to me, I get the point, and I actually contemplated this when I was writing this stuff. That, but how is that if you just said with a plaque commemorating their homes, buildings, date of construction, so that you open it? Because for instance, on the master list, there is, for instance, I'm looking at one. There's a cow barn that has one of these signs. I think that's great, built in 1920.
Mhm.
So I think it's important that we do have that open. I'm not sure I want to change it to Southborough historic building sign program or historic house sign, or
Yeah, right. Or to Grant's point, we just call it the historic sign program.
Southborough historic sign program.
I mean, I'm not sure I love that. I'm just throwing it
I
out
guess
there.
what I don't want is us to be in the situation.
Would we
Your connection is freezing up a little, Annie. So you missed that last bit. Uh-oh.
Just my 2 cents. I think keeping the name of the program is fine.
video off and see if my connection?
Okay.
If we want to be more inclusive, we can just say buildings date of construction, but keep the program name the same since we like the historic house sign program.
You go like this. Oops, I made a typo.
That's just my thought, but I'm curious what others think.
Yeah, I mean that's an inclusive rhetoric, right? Homes or other buildings show
You
their
could either, I'm sorry, Kevin, I'm stepping in.
Okay.
You could either make the name inclusive, call it a historic structures sign program, historic building sign program, or just leave it house. Because how many examples are we going to run into of something
you.
other than qualifying, really? 1 out of 50?
right.
Wow.
It's going to be vanishingly small. So I think Annie's going to log off and log back on. I would be in favor of just leaving it as it is. And the whole point of this is that we're going to get out there and publicize that, yes, other structures. And I think we should be proactive about it too. You know, like I said, I met the folks down at the Knights of Columbus, you know, and I was telling, you know, trying to get their approval to put the National Register sign on their corner of their property. We sort of chatted a little bit about their historic building, you know, and I said, you know, part of my pitch to them was that this is sort of help bring attention to the, I think it's a very interesting building, you know, and it should be noted. And so like we could be proactive, in other words, and go to them and say, hey, you know, Knights of Columbus, you interested in one of these? Because that building would qualify, you know. But to your point, Jim, yeah, we're not going to get tons and tons of other structures. So we're just leaving the door open in that rhetoric. But I think changing that to, you know, as I did there, that the plaque commemorating the building's date is fine, because that covers it.
Yeah, I think we've probably worked this one pretty
Yeah.
aggressively. Why don't we say this first paragraph and title of the program are good and move on? Everybody agree?
I agree.
Okay. Oh, Annie is now, I think, in. She's in there. Okay, Annie, I saw.
I'm here. I have my video off. I think it's just taking up too much bandwidth. I don't know what's going on with my connection. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, everyone last 2 days, there's a lot of utility problems. So you may be getting throttled. Anyway, all right, so let's move on. This is an easy one, thank goodness. About the signs. This is just straightforward. Signs are 16 inches wide by 12 inches high by 3/4 inches thick and made of a white PVC material for durability with digitally printed black lettering, gloss laminated. Black stainless steel screws, thanks to Jim Blocky, are provided for mounting. That's it. And we're going to have a picture of one of the signs, just like it's presently there on the website. So people will be able to see what it is. Any comment on this part of it? Good. Cost. So here's one that, you know, here's the thought. Formerly, and this is the rhetoric on the website, it says they cost $62. So at one point, I don't know, Michelle, you've got one. Did you guys pay?
Yes, we paid. I believe at that point everybody paid.
Yeah, Annie paid, everybody paid.
Yes.
And then we found ourselves in the position to have the money to give the signs away. I wasn't around when that decision was taken, but I think it's a pretty good one as long as the money holds out. Why not give them away while you can, you know? And like I said to you, when Annie and I delivered the sign to the Muddlicks, they were such, you know, nice, very kind people. And they I think they asked me a couple of times, well, what does this cost? What, you know, and I said, nothing, it's free, you know, and they were pretty sweet and said, well, we'd like to make a donation. And okay, all of a sudden my wheels start spinning. And I would just remind everybody that under Mass General Law, Part 1, Title 7, Chapter 40, Section 8D, making for the establishment of historical commissions, it notes that I'll read this. It's one line. The important stuff is that this is part of a long sentence, but after a semicolon, this is the stuff that we may do. We may, accept gifts, contributions, and bequests of funds from individuals, foundations, and from federal, state, or other governmental bodies for the purpose of furthering the commission's program. So we're legally empowered, and I mean, we can even hold real estate, believe it or not, and real property. But we're empowered to take donations. So, and I will have Annie talk to this point, because she talked to the finance folks down at the townhouse. But because when, you know, I got this question about donations, and, you know, I'm on the list, you know, my wife and I are on the list to get one of these signs. Like I said, she's been trying to get us since like 2019. And I said, well, I got to pay for it. You know, I'm going to be a paying customer, even if we're giving them away. But so we need to have this mechanism to accept the money. You know what I mean? And, you know, from people. So I like the idea to say that signs are currently provided, so that might change depending on if there's some great rush and we run out of dough, but that they're provided free of charge to Southborough residents, although the Southborough Historical Commission will gratefully accept donations from recipients and others, which I added because people just want to support this thing, wishing to help us continue to fund the program. The cost of the Southborough Historical Commission is currently $73.73 a sign. So, you know, I feel, I mean, I'm going to cut a check for that amount, but people who want to donate, you know what I mean, that get it, and if they want to give us $20 or $50 or $10, no obligation, it would be nice because it would help perpetuate the program and our annual budget. You know, I'd like to be able to hold that money in an account that would just feed the house signs program, because, you know, we only have $1,000 budget a year, and sometimes we end up turning money back. But I think to have it established that we could accept money, you know, will allow, let's say, historic commission members that want one, and, you know, feel as I do that you got to pay for it. Otherwise it, you know, so it doesn't look weird kind of thing. But then people who get them in the community, and want to support, you know, would like to support what they think is a good program. And then it would, you know, gives us more funds to work with, and also allows people that want one of these signs and live in a home that qualifies, but, you know, maybe don't have the resources at the moment to pay for it, you know, an opportunity to get one. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I know that we're going to be talking about setting that up later, I think. But just in looking at the text here, maybe after accept donations, we could say accept donations of any amount from recipients, just to clarify that it's not expected that the donation be $73.
Good suggestion, Grant.
Thanks.
How's that?
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, I think it's a great idea, because, you know, if you just want to, let's say if you're in the community, you get a sign, you'd like to, you know, yeah, a token, you know, $10, $5, I don't, you know, who cares what it is. Sure. Yeah.
I was going to suggest that 7373 is an accurate number, obviously, but it's fairly specific, and will be outdated the next time we go back to the vendor. Why don't we just say $75 a sign? It rounds it off, and it, you know, we're not really lying about it. We're just rounding it to the nearest, you know, $5.
That's fine with me. How about everybody else on that?
Or we could say is currently approximately $75 per sign.
That's good too.
Currently, approximately. I hate
I
those.
had the same thought when I saw, you know, 73.73.
Could do a
think
tilde.
that's a good
About
Well, you could, if you want to change that double, whatever it is, you could say the current cost to the historical commission is approximately, that takes the two adjectives out. Or adverb, they are.
Getting creative there, Jim.
Perfect. So, sound good to everybody?
Yeah.
I can't see everyone. Kelly, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
So, good, we'll move on. Placement. If you look around, I mean, I live in Latasquama. A lot of my neighbors, most of my neighbors, have these signs, and they vary. Some people have. There's one neighbor of mine that has it up on the second floor, but the recommendation had been. This is consistent with the existing language. Placement either at the far right corner, top of the first story, the street facing side, or to the right of the front door. And I noted, particularly where there's a porch or portico, that applies to a lot of houses in town, obviously, and it would, it helps protect the sign from weather. It's supposed to be stand up to the weather, but it would certainly keep it cleaner and also make it easier to clean, of course, to wipe it down if it's accessible. Now, for instance, at the Muddalix, they were asking us about this. They can't put it at the right corner of the first floor at the top, because there's windows too close to the side, so it actually won't fit. They have a portico in their house at the front door, but they have got large bushes that they thought would obscure it. So we were talking it over when Annie and I were there, and it really does seem, as I note here, the conditions may dictate placement on the left. So that's where they were planning on putting it, to the left, at the top of the first floor. You follow what I mean? Like it's ceiling height, basically, at the first floor, so it's visible. Looking around, even in my own neighborhood, I think, I know, Michelle, I mean, you've got one, right? Isn't that just to the right of your front door?
It is.
Yeah, and I think that's actually, personally, I think the most attractive option, because you're more likely to be able to read the whole thing. Like if you walk down the street and look at these signs, we can't make them huge. What you see, at least with my, maybe it's my eyesight, but I can see the circa and the name, and then if I squint, I can make out the name of the house. But of course, as you approach the house, like you come up somebody's front walk, or it depends on how close the house sits to the street, you can actually read the rest of the text. So I actually think near the door is mostly better. Go ahead, Annie.
Oh, no, I don't want to cut you off. I did just have one suggestion for this paragraph. So I would propose at the end, to the event, a member of the commission will be happy to visit your property to help identify the most optimal placement. So just something saying, like, if you really don't know where to put it, we can help.
Okay, you were breaking up a little bit there, but I think I got the gist of it.
Okay.
So you said, tell me if this is right. You want a member of the historical, or how about we just do this? The historical commission.
Perfect.
Let's say, how about that work?
Should that be the first sentence? I mean, I like that sentence. I just seems
Yeah.
Seems the most straightforward, and then we kind of get into the details, but that's just me.
Well, I could, let's say,
Mm, I kind of like it at the end
Okay, that's
as
fine.
more like these are the instructions, but if you need help, we
Yeah.
can consult as needed.
Okay, yeah. I think you can just say the commission since you already say the historical commission.
okay. Yeah, how's that?
Good.
Okay, so on the qualification, and this was under a separate FAQ, which I don't know, I didn't see the point because this rhetoric is, there's not a lot of it, you know, we're trying to be quick about it. The existing, as I said, the existing rhetoric on this says under what properties qualify, says, you know, that to participate in the program and obtain a marker for a home or other structure, property owners, applicants would be asked to ensure that the structures meets, is a typo in that, 2 or more of the criteria outlined below. Then the first thing is age. And it says the home or other structure was built prior to World War II. And again, what I was trying to do with this rhetoric is to bring us into better compliance with the existing zoning code. So what I say instead is, by definition, the property meets the definition of an historic building provided in the town of Southborough zoning code. That would be a hot link. And how that's defined is a building or structure listed on the Historic Property Survey of Southborough, Massachusetts, June 2000, on file with the town clerk's office, and is may be subsequently amended and approved by the Southborough Historical Commission, or any other building or structure that is more than 85 years old. So again, we would be, by doing that, we'd be in compliance with the zoning code, or in concordance with the zoning code. Go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, so I like that change. One thing I just, before we get into the details on the section that I thought I would note, if we want the definition, so currently as I read it, to participate in the program, property owners have to meet 2 or more of the criteria outlined below, but it doesn't actually make clear that they have to meet the definition, if that makes sense. So they could meet, for example, person and period and style, and not the definition of historic home at 85 years. So I thought that it might be better to say you have to meet the definition and one of the other, and then have the list below that, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Meets. So it meets,
The definition plus 2 or more.
right, or should it just be 1, I think?
I think just one, well, unless we want to change it. I think it would be the definition plus 1 is what I was thinking would be more clear,
Right.
because that's the requirement that it's a
Right.
must, right, that we want that,
Right.
yeah.
To participate in the program, property owners are asked to ensure that the structure meets the following definition, and following definition, and 1 more of the criteria outlined below. So then I give the definition, right? And then ask, well, okay, so there's the definition. It's got to be more than 85 years old. And I say here, assistance in finding a listed property. This is an existing town link that runs you through, you know, how you find out how old your house is. And I would note that there's frequently, as we've discovered, a discrepancy between, for instance, Patriot Properties and what the consultants that did the town survey and the Mass Historical Commission has it, i.e. in the MACRIS. So for instance, I'll give you an example about my own house. The Patriot Properties pretty sure it lists it as having been built in 1920. That's mistaken. The Macris, and that includes the material that went to the National Register, has the house as built in 1912. And actually, my wife got to the bottom of that at the Registrar of Deeds in Worcester. And what it is that the house is built in 1912. 1920 was the first time it was sold. In other words, by the original owner, by the guy who built and occupied the house for the first 8 or 9 years. He died and his wife sold the house and moved. That was the first, like, transfer of the ownership of the property in 1920. So Patriot Properties, which the property tax database in town listed as 1920, but you go digging in the Registry of Deeds and the Macris, you find that it was built in 1912. So this is why we always rely on the Macris, because it turns out to be more accurate than just typing it in. So this link takes you to that information and has the link to the Macris database so that someone can easily, and it tells you how to use it. So you can go in and just find the property. Then what we had in these other things that we say, well, make sure that, and the question I would have to you, and I'm sorry to see this is all taking longer than I thought it would. In some ways, this might be all you need, but I was leaning back on the existing rhetoric that, our predecessors on the Historical Commission had come up with. And they said, 2 of 5. And I think Grant is right that you've got to get past this initial hurdle of the definition of a historic building as provided for by the zoning code. And then one other thing, either it's and I didn't change any of this rhetoric, I don't believe. It's associated with a historic event. It's associated with some sort of individual, family, or group that's made a notable contribution to history. And you might not even know the specific name of the person. I think there are circumstances where that might apply. Most houses in town would get in under period style because it says the structure embodies distinctive characteristics of clear, classifiable periods of architecture or styles of construction. This criterion applies, not just to fancy houses, work of noted architects or buildings, but as well as to simpler vernacular styles. That encompasses, all kinds of buildings. And then the last one was the cultural landscape archaeology thing, that the site of the structure named in the application has yielded or is likely to yield information important to the understanding of our local prehistory or history of record. Again, some of this, when I step back from some of this stuff, I kind of regard it as hair splitting, because the fact of it is, if it's 85 years or older, it's going to exist in the Macris database, and it has some sort of coverage. But I think we could leave also, but leaving this here to say that you've got to be, the property has to be, at least 85 years old. And then, can you associate it with a historic event? Can you associate it with a person or group of people or family of some sort of significance? Can you associate it with a period or architectural style? That's where most everything is going to pass the test. Or this cultural landscape archaeology. I don't know if, do you guys have views on this when you reviewed this? Did you say, we don't need this stuff? Or I think it gives us a little bit of opportunity, to evaluate and make sure that the applicant for one of these signs is rising to some level of historic significance. You know, we have, you know, and Annie made the point earlier, and she's quite right, that sometimes a building, you know, let's say a factory worker's kind of cottage that's been quite a bit altered over the years, or might have been, you know, I don't know, aluminum sided or something like that. I mean, it's still there, it's still intact. And I think the point of the house signs program is to sort of foster, you know, people's pride in what they have, and to encourage, you know, somebody who really cares about this stuff, applies for the sign, gets the sign, and decides, gee, I'm going to take off, you know, the aluminum siding that was put on in 1970, or make that a goal someday to sort of restore the exterior of the house, you know. So I see these signs as sort of, you know, noting existing conditions, but also somewhat aspirational, or that they have that potential. I don't know. Do you guys thoughts on this? Does my property qualify?
If nobody else wants to go, I'll go. So I think I'm fine with keeping it. I'm kind of in the same camp that I don't know if it's strictly necessary, but I guess it does provide some wiggle room. If, you know, if we, for whatever reason, don't think a sign is deserving because, you know, it has aluminum siding or something like that. I would probably move up the period style to number 1, or the first one. But actually, there's 2 changes I would make. One is I would set the definition, take it out of the list, and just set it aside so that it's clear that you need to meet the definition and then the list of 5. So like I would take the number off of definition.
Right. Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that at a later
And then
date.
period style, if we think that's the one that everyone's going to qualify under, I would just put that first. And then,
Right.
And that's the only change I would make.
Makes sense.
Anybody else? I can't see. Jim, Kelly, Annie, anything? Michelle?
Well, my only point is I feel that if your house qualifies in the definition, you're going to meet one of the other criteria.
Right. Well, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. And when I was reading this rhetoric, I thought, do we need it? But on the other hand, it does give you, I'm not sure I can anticipate every scenario that might come up. So it does give the Historic Commission a little bit more discretion.
More guidelines, right?
Yeah.
I think it
I
could
can-
also be useful for the applicant to, you know, if their house technically meets it, but they don't consider their home historic, and then they look at the description and see, oh, actually, you know, so-and-so lived in my house, or, you know, something, they might be more willing to apply, perhaps. I'm not sure.
No, I think
I was-
that's a very good point. Go ahead, Jim.
I was gonna say, as a way to clean up the document in a just a ease of reading point of view without giving up any data or detail, the definition, I agree, meets, you know, if you meet that, then you're in. But some of this additional information that we list afterwards in the next few paragraphs are useful. I'd suggest we put it as an appendix. You this first, you know, have the definition, but further, you know, reference material is available in the appendix or on page 2 or something. Just take the stuff that's useful but not really necessary if you already bought into what it is, and just put it at the back of the letter.
I would support that as well. I think it's relevant to have it, but I'm not feeling compelled that it's required to approve someone who wants a sign. My feeling is that we should be, with probably some exceptions, be more liberal and generous with people who want signs. Just by applying and requesting a sign, you know, that's an indication that they have some pride in their property And I think that's a good thing for Southborough, and limiting that isn't necessarily, in anyone's best interest. But maybe as a guideline at the, appendix information, as Jim suggested, could be valuable there.
I think that's well said. I'm kind of glad to hear that there's sentiment that way, because like I said, I read all this stuff 2 through 5, and the idea that you had to jump through 2 hoops was just what our predecessors, did, and I've harbored a little skepticism about that as being maybe a little bit too nitpicky. So if you guys are okay with that, I will just highlight that the definition is you meet this definition and you're in. And then I can just take, if it's all right with the rest of you, I'll take 2 through 5 and just have it as that may be like an extra link of just to talk about how, for instance, because this is basically how the sort of whole MACRIS database works, is that, and that the Historic Property Survey of Southborough has already determined what's historic in the town, and it has the ability to be subsequently amended and approved by us. So if that's not good enough, why do you need this other stuff? Except I do think it's a nice idea, as Jim said, to have it as sort of education. What are the things that MACRIS looks at, and then to list what those are. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I'm just thinking, I feel that our purpose is to propagate these signs. And I do feel like Annie and everyone else has stated that if the property meets the definition, then I feel that we don't want to discourage people from applying for a sign.
Right. Good. Oh, if everyone's in agreement, if I don't hear any other objection, I will make that change as you folks instruct, and we'll just highlight what I'm circling right now. That's going to be it. And then I'll just put this other stuff probably without any alteration, just as what is a historic property? Or we can just cut it all together. I don't know. Jim, you want to keep that stuff, right?
I was suggesting it's useful, but doesn't need to slow you down to get to the punchline. So once you have the definition, you could just say at the end of it, something like, for further information is included at the end of this document or whatever. But then
Okay,
you move
that's fine. Yeah, and I can maybe get, I'm sorry, I can get Hassan or Jay to put like a link out, additional facts.
I'm suggesting you can leave it in the document, just move it to the end as an appendix.
Okay.
So you don't have to go off to a different part of the website.
Okay. So
And
then,
also, Evan, I think you need to change. I'm not sure if you changed the at the top of that section to just be needs to meet the definition.
yeah, I can, if it's okay with it, I'll just do that.
That's fine. Yeah.
As you instruct. So then the last thing was, like I said, rather than having some form, it just seems to me that because this is the way I've been dealing with it in the absence of this form since I became chair. The Muddalix, for instance, just sent me, Karen Muddalix sent me an email and said, I got this program. Can we get one of those? And then I just went to the MACRIS and looked at the house and said, oh yeah, I walk by that house all the time. It's great, definitely qualifies, and so on. But if we just have, and this email would go to everybody, by the way, that's the way it'll be linked. With any questions or to request a sign, and I just say to apply, please include your name, the full address of the property, the date of construction listed in Town of Southborough or MACRIS records, and any other pertinent historical or architectural information, and we'll take it from there. It doesn't take long to look this up and to ascertain that it meets the standard. The Southborough Historical Commission will review your application at an upcoming meeting, contact you regarding our findings. If approved, the commission will consult with you regarding final wording prior to production of the sign. In some cases, that's useful because sometimes the historic name is quite long. It can be sort of shortened, you know, and so on. I mean, so I think that's a nice, and again, Annie is so good at this and has been so amenable about adjusting or consulting with an applicant. I think it's a good idea. Go ahead, Annie.
Yes, thank you. I just have one very small suggestion for this. So just in my experience working with this so far, the town's records, and you kind of already touched on this too, Kevin. The town's recorded date of construction is almost always different from the Macris record. And we use what is in Macris as a more accurate date. So I almost would take out this, the date of construction, because we're gonna look that up and we're gonna use the date that we provide. So I feel like asking them to give us a date is just introducing potential confusion into the process.
I could just take that
Yeah.
out, go, please apply, please include your name, full address of the property, and any other pertinent historical or architectural information, the end. Right, and we'll look it up. You know, this is what I've done routinely, and you know, Annie's done it as well. Like every time it comes in, we just look it up and we know where to look. So
I think that's a good change.
Yeah,
I was going to say before Annie spoke, like date of construction if known, but I think it's just simpler to get rid of it entirely.
okay with you, Jim, Michelle, Kelly?
Well, you're going to drop that highlighted section, the whole thing?
Yeah.
I think it's, not to swim upstream here, but I think it's useful to have some reference to that. Maybe minimize the number of people who might be flying blind, so to speak. In other words, we've defined it's 85 years, but to at the point of application, expect them to at least take a stab at, you know, the age of it is useful in my mind.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's true as well. And we do, since the definition, you know, it's this whole 85-year stuff. And again, I go back to the fact that we are including this link that takes you right to where you can look it up. It doesn't take you to Patriot Properties. It takes you to, you know, how to find an accurate listing. I don't want people to, the point of, I don't know, without getting into the weeds, like I want people to be discouraged because they discover, for instance, the Patriot Property says their house is only 80 years old, but actually the Macris has it listed as 86, like in a situation I described with my own house. You know, the property would have been in either way, but again, the Patriot Properties had it as 1920, the Macris has it as 1912. And clearly after, you know, I did my own research, or my wife did it. The Macris listing was in fact the accurate one, which is, again, we found this time and time again, which is why we rely on it. So what are we going to do with that clause? Leave it? Cut it? The point is, Annie, that this link is going to take people to a place to find an accurate listing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm of the mind to cut it, just because I've dealt with quite a lot of people recently who have no idea about Macris or how it works or how to use it. And I feel like it's very easy for us. First of all, I don't think we're going to get hundreds of these, right? So I think the overall time commitment on our end to spend 30 seconds to go look it up and see if it's listed or not is so minimal. But I think it's better that we do it instead of them. But
Well,
that's
the
just-
other thing is by saying this last clause and any other pertinent historical or architectural information, arguably that includes the date.
Yeah.
So we want to take a vote on this clause?
Okay.
Let's do, how about a vote? If you're in favor of keeping the clause, I'll make that motion. Someone second it?
I second it.
Okay, so then we'll have a roll call vote on if we're going to keep this clause. Just as I see you on the screen, Grant,
Sorry, the motion is to keep it?
to keep the clause, yeah, yes or no?
No.
You don't want to keep it. You want to strike it.
Yes.
You want to strike this clause. Okay. Jim,
Keep shortened though, just date of construction, comma, and move on.
okay, that's a contingent vote. Annie, keep or strike? I've worded this so poorly.
I would strike, but I like Jim's suggestion, date of construction. And I think that's a good compromise.
Okay, can I withdraw my motion?
Yes.
Please do. I don't want to include it in the minutes.
Yeah, I've made it so, I'm sorry, I made it so damn convoluted. Is everybody okay with date of construction?
I certainly am.
I think we're still gonna have the people, the conversation that, well, yes, I know that's what the town says, but actually this is the more accurate date. I feel like we're just gonna have to have that conversation anyway.
Right.
I
Yeah,
just don't want to direct people to the town's website, knowing that it's likely incorrect.
well, again, this link goes, it doesn't take you to Patriot Properties. Let me see if
No.
I can open this so you guys can see it. Are you seeing that now?
Yeah, I'm on the
On the web page?
yeah.
Are you guys seeing the web page now?
No, but I think
I gotta, that's all right. I can fix this. I'll do it.
I think we all can follow it on on our own end.
Can we, for that phrase up there, can we say assistance in finding a listed property and its date of construction, just to clarify that that's where you can go to.
Right. Here's what that link I've been keep showing you takes you to. The Historic Property Survey final report, that's the Macris information, narrative history of Southborough, National Registry recommendations, and then it gives you the link to Macris and tells you how to do it. Acknowledge the disclaimer, scroll through the towns, click on Southborough, enter your street number, enter your street name, boom. Or an even easier one by street name is, and of course, this isn't going to give everything. If your house is built prior to 1925, you can find it this way. So, I mean, you got a lot of options to figure this out. And listen, if we get an email from somebody that says, I tried and I'm a little confused, then we'll help. I can put that rhetoric in if you'd like, if that makes any sense.
I like the suggestion of adding clarity to the link that you can find date of construction on this link.
Okay, what I say here is assistance in finding a listed property, including a link to the Macris database, can be found here. Do you think that's enough?
Assistance in finding information about a listed property, comma, including date of construction. Maybe to that.
Assistance in finding information about a listed property, including a link to the Macros database. How does that work for everybody?
I like it.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm gonna do as you folks instruct. Highlight this definition, that's it. Take this other stuff, 2 through 5, and put it at the end. And then we're okay on the how to apply.
Mhm.
So I think that's it. Should we, let's take a vote on this as amended. And I will follow you.
Before
Go
we
ahead.
finalize this, may I make one additional suggestion for the document? I'd like to say something about the timeline. Just so requesters have an understanding of how long it takes between their request and, you know, a fully produced sign being delivered. I think it could be like 60 to 90 days, depending on our meeting, you know, our meeting schedule and where we are in the cycle and everything. So I would love to incorporate that somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but
Well, that would be right here. So I say, you know, to apply, send that stuff. The SHC will review your application at an upcoming meeting and contact you with our findings. If approved, the commission will consult with you regarding final wording prior to production of the sign. Do you want me to add a line that says, you know, the full cycle from application to delivery is anticipated at what, 90 days?
I would say 60 to 90 days.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
that okay with everybody?
I like that. That's fine.
I'm just gonna make a note so I don't have to futz with the wording right now, but
Yeah.
60 to 90 days. And
Okay.
I'll fix it. Good. Anything else?
Nope.
You guys are, isn't, you know, there's nothing easy in life, is there? I mean, it's all like, anyway, all right. So, somebody want to make a motion to accept this document as amended?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, so moved and seconded, moved by Annie, seconded by Jim. This is a roll call vote to approve as amended this verbiage for the historic house sign program. Annie,
Yes.
Jim,
Aye.
Grant,
Aye.
Michelle,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Miller's aye. 6-0. Great, thank you so much. So can we quickly, and I know we've already gone way long in this. Annie, do you want to, can you show us? My apologies to Michelle too, because she's got to drive somewhere tonight. And I'm feeling bad. And can I call you an Uber?
I think we can get through reviewing the proofs pretty quickly.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm
Take
gonna
it.
share my screen now. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing. Oh, you know what? When I logged off and came back on, you might
Oh,
need
yeah,
to,
I have to promote you.
make me co-host again.
I have to log off. So I'm going to leave this in your hands.
Okay, Kelly, thank you.
Thanks,
All
Kelly.
right. Have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
There you go. All right, are you seeing the sign on the screen? Okay. So right now we have 5 pending sign requests. And I've gone through the process of having proofs made up by our vendor Signorama. So I just wanted to go through kind of one by one, talk about the requests, the artwork, and gain approval from the commission to move forward. So this first one is the A. Sullivan House, circa 1860. The street address is 7 Pearl Street. And I have here on a different tab. Hold on, give me a second. 7 Pearl Street. So that's the Oh. Here we go. Okay, so 7 Pearl Street, and it's the A. Sullivan House. So we can go back to the artwork here. It's pretty straightforward, just using the template from our last sign. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
It is beautiful. Just a quick question, actually, if you go back to the Macros page,
Oh, sorry, hold on.
that's fine.
Where is it? I think here.
So we always go by the historic name instead of the common name, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Evan, do you have any thoughts on that?
That's the way I've understood it as well. And I will say, Grant, that for instance, in that area, at what is it, number 3 Pearl Street, there's another Sullivan House, and that one's just Sullivan House, and this is the A. Sullivan House. Although the historic name goes back to the original owner.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I think we've generally tried to do.
Okay. I was just curious. I saw the other name there. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, actually, because there's and you know, Annie, this is an interesting thing because the Macros lists the A. Sullivan House at 7 Pearl Street and an A. Sullivan House at 8 Pearl Street.
Oh, okay.
Which would be, you know, that might be one, you know, if we were to receive an application for that one, you know, it might be one of these things where it would be the like, you know, A. Sullivan. I wouldn't do it in this case, but this house could be the A. Sullivan / Hurley house or something like that.
Okay, I see.
But you know, because in that rare instance where you might get, I'm just looking at, for instance, the other A. Sullivan house in the Macros at number 8 Pearl Street has a common name of the P.N. Newton house. So, you know, you've got side by side 2 A. Sullivan houses. You know, if were we to receive an application for the one at number 8, that might be one we went, you know, Sullivan Newton house, because that Sullivan is the historic name, Newton is the common name in this lingo.
Okay, yeah, I've had very little to do with the choosing of the sign name, so I was just curious. Thanks.
But
So for the purpose of this, I think we're good to just say A. Sullivan. And should there be another similar request, we can address it at that time.
right.
Okay, I think the sign looks great. So
Do we want to vote
Okay.
these individually, Annie, or we
I think
bundle?
one vote at the end of all of them, just in the interest of time, if you
Okay.
guys are okay with that.
I
Yes.
am.
Okay.
Keep
So
going.
the next one is the E.J. Stonehouse, circa 1895. So take a look at that, and I will open the Macros for this as well. So this is actually one of my neighbors across Route 9, at 47 Central Street. So E.J. Stonehouse, 47 Central, year constructed 1895. Now, one question I have on this one is sometimes right here it says C and sometimes it says R. Does anyone know the difference in Macros of what that means?
C should be circa, I'm guessing, but I'm
I'm gonna guess that it's construction, reconstruction, or rebuilt or restored,
Oh, okay.
but I could be way off on that end.
I mean, there's no other date or approximate date or anything listed in this listing, so I imagine this is what we would use for the sign.
So I don't talk out of turn. I'm trying to quickly double check this, but I'm not seeing the clarification. My brain is fuzzy.
So do we, Annie, do we always put a C on the sign? I thought that for some we didn't and just put the date, or is that, am I mistaken on that?
I think we always put the C,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not positive because I don't think our records prior to kind of what we're doing now are very specific on that, and none of us were on the, well, Jim, you might have been on the committee then.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we always put C.
Okay, because I always thought that C was like circa, like around 1895. Whereas if we knew the exact date, it would just be the year. But now that I have no idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think
I
that's
don't know if I'll ever be totally certain of the date.
right, and I think that for purposes of the sign, C does mean circa. I just was looking at the other references of C and an R.
Oh,
But
okay.
I think from the sign, if we say about 1895, which is what the C I think references for most people. That's what it's called.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, it's one of these things where the house, is begun in 94, finished in 95, or there's a property transfer, and this is the architectural historians' way of hedging their bets.
Yeah,
a little bit.
agreed. But so just to confirm, none of us really know what the R letter would definitively stand for in this situation, so we're okay to say C on the sign.
For me, yes.
That's one I feel badly because I feel like I should know or did know, and I'm just blanking. But now I'm because I don't want to misspeak. I'm not entirely. I think we should look into that.
Okay,
That one.
so let's hold this from the vote tonight.
Okay. I hate to do that, but I think, yeah, I mean, clearly it qualifies and all that, but just that clarification on that R, if it was reconstructed, does it give in the I'm sorry to
No,
move
that's
later.
okay. Nope,
Does it give in the report, in the narrative report?
no, there's no narrative on this one.
There's no narrative on this one.
No.
Yeah, I wonder if in the report on the area of the town it might be mentioned. Well, it's usually cross-referenced that way if there
Yeah.
is.
I just checked it. Here. Whoops. Hold on.
Yeah. What's the inventory on the?
Let me start over on this. So this is just the Fayetteville.
Right, I think maybe it might be in the narrative report of Fayetteville.
PDF, I think.
Yeah, that one. This is 47 Central, right?
Yeah, 47 Central.
Okay, Yeah.
No, it does. Oh,
The Fayetteville, I'm trying to take a quick look at this, the Fayetteville inventory. Well, maybe you can keep going.
yeah, let's
No,
keep going just in the interest of time.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
trying to do this in the background.
I'm gonna go back. So let's just hold this for now. Move on to the next one. So the J Temple House. This is my neighbor at 19 Oak Hill Road. This one is circa 1850. So that's the Macris. And so one thing that I should tell you about this one, so the requester wants to surprise their spouse with this sign as a Christmas gift. So they kindly asked us if we could rush it into production. So between discussion with Kevin and I, we agreed that that was okay. So it's actually being produced right now. However, we still wanted to bring this to you guys to let you know, have your input on it. But we both reviewed the Macris and thought this one was pretty straightforward. Any
Agreed.
questions?
Yeah, very
I agree, and I think it will make a great gift.
Agreed. All right, so the N. Carter House, also circa 1850. That is at 269 Corderville Road. Some of you know some of you know Nancy. Her house is a really fabulous Greek Revival style. Again, we have the R here, R 1850. So I think I would like some guidance on what you guys want to do with that, because I don't know what the R means.
That's
The
something that we could.
I'm sorry, the R, what the R means, I've just found this answer.
Oh, good. Okay.
C and R in the year column indicate circa and range construction date estimates. And they say, they should be used with caution. A range can span decades. But again, that's the information that we have. So my view of this, this is right off the Macris website, and I read this, and I'm glad I waited to find it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, C&R in the year column indicates circa and range construction date estimates. They should be used with caution. A range can span decades. For the specific record of the scanned inventory file for more, see the specific record of the scanned inventory file for more information. But again, I think for the purposes of these signs, I would use C and R interchangeably, and I would just use C.
Okay.
It's fundamentally the same difference. It's a little bit like the R, they're a little bit less certain than the C.
Okay.
But I think, again, you can't get into the weeds on that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so I think your first impulse was correct, but I'm glad we were.
So to use them interchangeably, that's good. Okay. So any questions or concerns on this one, the N. Carter House?
It's good.
All right.
Great.
And then this last one is actually the one for Kevin's home at 18 Ladisquama. And as you can see, this has a little bit longer of a formal historical name. So Kevin and I offline went back and forth on some different layouts to get it just right to be able to fit all the names there. So this is what we came up with design wise, which I think looks good. And one moment, and I'll pull up the Macris here. So 18 Ladisquama, circa 1912. So the Ferris H. and Mary Haviland House. And just a quick, probably not significant note on this. This is actually a slightly different dimension. So Kevin measured the space next to his front door under the portico where he wants to put his sign, and it's just shy of 16 inches. So we were able to accommodate a slightly smaller size for that one. Any questions or concerns on this one?
Nope.
Okay.
Just, I don't know if we know this, but does Ferris H does that stand for Haviland as well, or is that the middle initial?
That's the middle edition.
Okay.
Yeah, the middle initial. It's clearly
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Okay, thanks.
So can I make a motion to approve these 5 signs to enter into production in the next round?
Seconded.
All right, so motion made by Annie. Did you have Grant? Did you?
Yeah, sorry, just for the purposes of the minutes, Annie, would you mind renaming what the street addresses for each of the signs were?
Oh, yes. Oh, give me one moment. I don't know what's going on with my mouse. Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will go from the beginning. I move that we approve the sign proofs for the A. Sullivan House at 7 Pearl Street, the E.J. Stone House at 47 Central Street, the J. Temple House at 19 Oak Hill Road, the N. Carter House at 269 Corderville Road, and the Ferris H. and Mary Haviland House at 18 Lattisquama.
Seconded.
Okay, so motion made by Annie, seconded by Jim. Roll call vote. Annie,
Yes.
Jim,
Aye.
Michelle,
Yes.
Grant,
I
and I'm going to abstain because I'm one of the applicants. So 401. And it's noted this, why we have to get this financial stuff set up, because I'm a paying customer. Lastly, Annie, can you quickly talk about, no pressure, the issue of taking accepting donations or payment, or however you want to put it, because we need to get that mechanism into place. And I know you talked to Carla McAuliffe. Did you talk to
Yes.
Valentine as well about how this
Yes.
will be processed? Yeah.
So we so as Kevin described earlier, it is under our powers to accept donations. And there are several boards and commissions that that already do this. And in order for us to kind of have the mechanism to do it, we have to vote to create a donation account, which is like a separate account under the historical commission budget. So truly all we have to do is, take a vote. So tonight I move that the historical commission create a historical commission donation account within our budget.
Seconded.
Okay, so motion made by Annie, seconded by Jim. Roll call vote. Annie,
Yes.
Jim,
Aye.
Grant,
Hi.
Michelle,
Yes.
Miller's aye. So 5-0 on that. And that's great, because it's really going to allow us to, again, accept what we'd characterize as donations and help to perpetuate, because hopefully and again, the purpose of all this, get the language cleaned up. We we had this backlog of people wanting signs. We just approved them all. We did our first one with the Muddlicks, and it worked out so great. So now what I would like to do, once I get the language cleared up on the, from some help from Jay and Hassan, to get this amended language that you guys approved up on the website, then we can promote, and publicize this. And we've got, again, our annual budget, the select board generously allowed us to keep, $1,000 of the ARPA money for it. So we should be set up, and I hope it sort of unleashes or generates some real interest in the program, and we get applicants. And meanwhile, having done this expedient of being able to accept donations is going to allow hopefully us to perpetuate it. So this is all good news. Thank you so much. Annie's done it.
I'd like to add just two really quick notes about this. Now that we've officially voted to create the account, so the select board does have to vote to accept donations. So not spend the funds, just accept the funds into the donation account. And checks should be made out to Town of Southborough. Not to the Historical Commission. It goes to the Town of Southborough, but then it's put into our specific donation account. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that the funds do not have to be spent within the fiscal year that they are received. So unlike our normal budget funds that, it's like use it or lose it, the donation funds do carry over year to year. So, we could theoretically save up over a number of years for a bigger initiative if we didn't have an immediate need to spend those donation funds within the same fiscal year that they are received.
Good. Thank you for that clarification, because I was concerned about that it, it will be held sort of separately, basically, from our annual budget, right?
Correct. Yes.
Because you'd like to get to a point where we could perpetuate this. And so if there was, we have a very modest budget to begin with, but if things got really tight, we'd be able to continue with our, with the sign program activities. And again, to have that mechanism clearly defined for accepting, donations is really important to me. Like I didn't feel like I could, for instance, move on with my own application unless we had that in place. You know what I mean? So it's just sort of works. Thank you, everybody. Oh gosh, we got minutes we got to approve. So let's do the 1023. Anybody have anything on those October 23rd minutes?
All set.
Michelle, anything?
Amazing.
I've got a couple things. I'll try to run through this real quick.
Just give me 1 second so I can pull it up.
Okay.
Okay.
Line 23. Reading that, this is about the Massar stuff, which has worked in other towns to make plaques, honoring Revolutionary veterans in other towns such as Marlborough. It's kind of a duplication of other towns. So I think what you want to do is simply replace worked in other towns to make with the word erected. Mr. Gauthier of the Massachusetts Society, it's Massachusetts Sons of the American Revolution, which has erected plaques honoring Revolutionary veterans in other towns such as Marlborough.
There's erected plaques honoring Revolutionary veterans. You didn't make there was no change to the Massachusetts Society. That's the same wording, right? I got the name right. I did Google it, so hopefully I got it right.
Yeah, you're good. You could do a global on all the references in that section to revolutionary should be capitalized because it's referring to a specific revolution. To get really in the weeds. Massar, you give the acronym at one point. It's 2 S's, MASSAR, line 28.
Thank you.
Line 31. They're all clustered in this area. Ms. Waters stated that she is confident in the list of revolutionary veterans, and 37 marked graves and 43 unmarked graves. I would simply cut in the list presented.
Okay.
Because you said list in the previous line. She's confident in the list of revolutionary veterans and 37 marked graves and 43 unmarked graves.
Yeah.
I would, in the same line, replace were with are. There are 7 marked graves and 2 unmarked graves, indicating veteran status that Ms. Waters believes. And then you would want to strike believes in line 32. That Ms. Waters found issues with.
Okay.
So you strike believes. And line 55, just strike the comma there. Just yeah, unnecessary. That's a small thing.
I don't see a comma in line 55.
Line 55 after the word building, with a quick impulse to act on the historic building and with the lack of imaginative.
Oh, okay. That's 54 in mine for whatever reason.
Oh, weird.
But I got it. Yeah.
Line 77, which might be one off for you. The common historic, it's the same thing. You capitalize common because it's a specific town common. And then finally in line 108, tax exempt is hyphenated for what it's worth, because you're using it as a that's it. They're really that was a big one, and they're really awesome.
Awesome.
Thank
And
you.
I'll do that global search as well to
Yeah, that's easy.
get
Anybody have anything
revolutionary
on that? Nope. All right. So I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 23rd
Second.
I second.
as amended. Seconded. Okay, I made the motion. Annie seconded. Roll call vote. Annie,
Yes.
Grant,
Yes.
Jim,
I have to abstain. I wasn't there. I found
Okay.
nothing, but I have to abstain.
Michelle,
Yes.
Miller's aye. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 0, 1. And can we do 1129? Did you guys get a chance to review that? I
Sorry
did.
for sending them out late.
It came
I
out.
did get a chance, but happy to hold if others didn't.
I've been through them as well. I don't, Michelle, Jim, we can
Yes.
post the
Yeah.
draft if you want to wait. Those were, yeah, that was a, and again, granted a stellar job. That's sort of it's another kind of sensitive one.
Is it possible to hold on that? I have a 2-hour ride ahead of me, so.
Yes, let's do that. We will post those as draft minutes so that we're clear with our friends in the clerk's office.
Okay, great.
Sound fair? So we need to schedule, and then we're out of here. I didn't put, well, I think that's okay. It would be under business. We need to schedule a January meeting, I think. Looking at the calendar in 2024. Actually, my computer is slow. Okay. Today is the 19th. What would you folks say to Wednesday, January 24th?
That works through.
It works here.
How about you, Grant?
Did you say the 24th?
24th?
Is that the date? I didn't hear.
Yes, Wednesday, January 24th.
I have CPC that night.
Ah.
Ah.
How about the 17th?
I can
Yeah.
do that.
That works for me.
Just checking one thing.
That's on top of another, I've got the Tricentennial Commission on that committee that day.
On the 17th?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I don't want you to conflict you on that one.
Go
about
Tuesday or Thursday, the week of the 22nd, like 23rd, 25th.
That's a little trickier for me. How about Monday, the 22nd?
That works.
That works for me.
Yes, it works for me.
Give me 1 second. Yes, that works for me.
Good, and I hope for the best with Dan. I know Mondays are probably better for him, and hopefully Kelly. So we'll pencil that in Monday, 1/22, 7 p.m. Thank you so much. Public comment. There's nobody here, which is good news in this case. So we can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
We should let.
Made by Jim, seconded by Annie. Roll call vote. Annie,
Yes.
Jim,
Aye.
Grant,
Aye.
Michelle,
Yes.
Miller is an emphatic aye. I gotta go back and finish my grading. So thank you all. I'm so sorry that I can't believe that it took us so long to go through that language, but I guess if I had written cleaner copy, but the input was really helpful. So that puts us on a good path. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, you too.
I
Holidays.
don't see or talk to you before then. And happy new year. And I will see you for sure in 2024.
Indeed.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you for your
Have a
kindness.
good ride,
Bye-bye.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you and good night. Bye.